Thomas Thompson, I'm really sick of you. I'm just gonna ship you off for 15 cents. Never mind the train, we're just gonna put you in the mail and ship you off. I can save money, only 15 cents to ship you both away. Shipping babies? Was it really a real thing? Why, yes it was. In this video, we are gonna dive into the bizarre history of mailing babies. Mailing babies? Yes, that's right, mailing babies. Now imagine that you want to send your children to their grandmother and you want to go 70 miles away. Now that's quite far for back in the day. You know, train tickets might be way too expensive, and why spend the extra money when you can ship them through the USPS post office? There wasn't really any regulations back then. And around 1900, the post office developed the Parcel Post. I mean, this sounds perfect, right? Only 15 cents for a baby that weighs this much? This big? There's a weight limit of 50 pounds, so why not just ship your kids away? Well, if your kids were only 48 pounds, this is gonna work. Just pin a stamp on their coat and send them on their way. Now, doesn't it sound like a dark urban legend? Between 1913 and 1915, it actually happened. Families in America were literally shipping their babies through the post office. Today we are diving into this strange and brief history of shipping kids through the Postal Service. Now, before 1913, the Postal Service was strictly for letters, sending postcards and letters, and even back then you've seen a lot of real photo postcards of pictures that you could send to loved ones. Back then, it was only made for letters. Anything over 4 pounds had to go through express companies to mail things. And back then, it was very expensive and unreliable to ship to these rural places in America. And then the Parcel Post was launched, and everything changed suddenly. Farmers could ship their pitchforks, bricks, and even live chickens. But back then, there wasn't really any regulations. Oh my goodness, where is this going? They were really vague. They really didn't think or expect people to actually ship their children through the post office. In rural America, the mailman wasn't just a government employee. He was a trusted neighbor who visited your house every single day. This trust, combined with a literal interpretation of rules, led to the first special delivery. Well, I guess the stork was kind of like the mailman, right? The first Parcel Post packages came from Batavia, Ohio, and James Beagle was shipped through a Parcel Post. Jesse and Matilda Beagle made history when they sent their son through the Postal Service, mailed their son James to his grandmother's house. It was about a mile away. And here's an article that says, Baby by Parcel Post in Batavia, Ohio. Mail carrier safely delivers a boy of 10 and it looks like 3/4 pounds to grandmother, cost 15 cents. Vernon O. Lytle, mail carrier on Route 6. Route number 5 out of Batavia, Ohio, is the first man to accept and deliver under Parcel Post conditions a live baby. The baby boy, which weighed 10 3/4 pounds, just within the Parcel Post limit, is the child of Mr. and Mrs. Beagle, who live near Glen Estates. The package was well wrapped and ready for mailing when the carrier got it. The measurements reached 72 inches, also just within the law, which makes 72 inches the limit. Lytle delivered the parcel safety to his address, and card attached that of his grandmother, Mrs. Louisa Beagle, who lives about a mile from the baby's home. The postage was 15 cents, and the parcel was insured for $50. Wow. And they actually insured him for $50. Now, what would happen? I mean, what did they say? In case we lose your baby, in case he didn't make it? I mean, what would the circumstances be that you would pay for insurance? I don't know. Only $50. Oh, that's really interesting. Now, poor little James wasn't just shoved into a box. The mail carrier Verdon Lytle simply picked him up and put him in his delivery sack and delivered him safely to his grandmother's door. And then there was May Pierstorff in 1914. Her parents wanted to send 73 miles away. A train ticket cost $1.55, which was too much that they wanted to spend. But 53 cents? Well, they could afford that. May traveled by railway car. Technically, the postmaster classified her as a baby chicken to make the paperwork fit. While most cases were short trips, some parents just push the limits. You know, there's always one in every bunch. There's always one just pushing the limit and poking the bear, right? Somebody's always got to poke the bear. And some parents push their limits to the absolute breaking point. Well, I can't even imagine trying to take care of a little baby delivering mail. I mean, who's taking care of this baby? Aren't there any like diapers to be changed, or don't they have to be fed when they're traveling 800 miles? I don't know. In 1915, Edna Nuff traveled a staggering 720 miles. She went all the way up the East Coast from Florida to Virginia. Now, this wasn't a local mailman stroll. This was a massive statewide journey via the railway system, and it only cost 15 cents. There's a lot of myths and propaganda, things like that out there. You know, you gotta debunk these myths. There are a lot of photographs out there of mail people like taking babies, putting them in their mail sacks, carrying them around. Maybe they have a big postal stamp on them. Some of them say staged on it. And most of these, I would think, are probably made up just for jokes about the time. And the Smithsonian says there are actually 0 authentic, real photographs of babies being delivered by the mail people. There were staged postcards and just funny pics that were going around at the time, set up by professional photographers and postal people for humorous postcards, which I think is really fun. I love those humorous postcards from back then. It's kind of funny to look back at some of them. And here's another newspaper clipping, and this is the Cincinnati Post. Boy reporter Freddie Prinz mailed himself to Versailles, Indiana as a publicity stunt in 1918. 2 years later, the U.S. Post Office stopped accepting children as Parcel Post packages. Good idea. That is funny, I have to say. That is cute. Children traveled in mail cars and walked alongside with the carriers. They were treated more like traveling companions than just a package. I mean, thank goodness, right? Thank goodness. Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine. Here I found this newspaper article, and it shows you back in the times of what happened here, which I love these newspaper articles. And this says, Parcel Post Baby makes trip upon the L&E Railroad. Clerk accepts the child despite doubt to legality of act. Jackson, Kentucky on August 31. Special. Anything can happen in Jackson, said the traveling man today as he watched the great crowd follow the mail wagon from L&E Depot as mail carrier James Haddix carried a Parcel Post Baby to Jackson Post Office. Oh my goodness. The child was seated on a pack of mail sacks between the mail carrier's knees and was busily eating away at some candy it carried in a bag. Oh, that's sweet. That's the way to do it. In the other hand, it carried a big red apple, and it smiled when the curious folks waved their hands and called for her. The child wore a pink dress to which it sewed a shipping tag, covered on the side with 33 cents in stamps, and on the other side had the following words: to Mrs. Celia Smith, care Jim Hendricks, Jackson, Kentucky, from R.K. Madden, Craney, Kentucky. Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine this. Okay, let's go on. The child was put on the O&K train at Kearney, Morgan County, and arrived at Jackson at 11 o'clock. On her dress, the mail clerk had pinned the following letter: to Postmaster Hayden, August 31, 1915. Postmaster, Jackson, Kentucky. Dear Sir, baby received at 8:15, Kearney, Kentucky, by Postmaster in person. I doubt the legality of the sending, but it was put on train, and I must deliver and report. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine. They were probably like, oh, I'm sure they were pretty stressed about that. Respectfully, J.T. Sebastian R.P. Clark. The girl weighed 30 pounds, was 3 years old, and her name is Maud Smith. Oh, I love that newspaper article. And then there was a complete ban on this big legacy of a $15 50-pound package. I mean, I don't think it's really safe to ship children, so that's probably a good thing. Newspaper clippings came about from 1914 and 1920 about the ban of shipping children. And here's a letter from the New York Times, and it says, baby, wants baby sent by mail. Pathetic inquiry as Parcel Post worries the Postmaster General. Washington, January 16. The mailing of babies by Parcel Post is a real infant industry which Postmaster General Hitchcock is asked to foster. The circumstances of his bachelorhood, Mr. Hitchcock is considering seriously the calling into consideration of experts in transportation of babies, as a letter which he has received today presents him a mail problem in which he is quite unfamiliar. To add to his embarrassment, the letter contains a note of pathos which replies too strongly that the Postmaster General. This is the letter identically as it was phrased and punctuated. Fort McPherson, Georgia. Postmaster General, Washington, D.C. Sir, I have been corresponding with a party in Pennsylvania about getting a baby to raise, our home being without one. May I ask you what specifications to use in wrapping so it, baby, would comply with regulations, be allowed shipment by Parcel Post, as the express company are too rough in handling yours. The names signed to the letter withheld a request to Mr. Hitchcock. As babies, in the opinion of the Postmaster General, do not fall within the category of bees and bugs, the only live things that are transported by mail, he is apprehensive that he may not be of assistance to his correspondent. Interesting. This is interesting. I'm sure this made many post office employees extremely nervous, because what if something goes wrong? That's not going to be good for anybody. And the stories kept hitting the national AP headlines all over America. And that's when the post office realized, we might be doing something wrong. We might have a problem on our hands. But by 1920, this ban finally took effect. Here is the official ruling. Children were not harmless livestock animals. And they can't be mailed. And it just shows us how different things were back then. Your local postal carrier, your mailman was your lifeline to America. Babysitter, and occasionally a travel agent. So the next time that you complain about a package being late, or email me, have you shipped your package yet on eBay? Just remember, at least they didn't lose your poor Aunt May from way, way back in the day. Well, if you enjoyed this weird piece of history and stories like this, hit the subscribe button and the like and share if you will. That'd be great. And don't forget to leave a comment. I'd like to know what you think about this story. Have you ever heard about this? Come back for more dives into history.